Good morning, Central Texas. Welcome to KISS Community Connections, 103.1 KISS FM. I'm Phyllis Jones. Once again, host and guest. My guests seem to keep falling off somewhere, but anyway, we're going to talk some more. You know, Friday, a movie came out, Thurgood Marshall's movie came out, and I think we should all go and see it. Many of us only know him as the Supreme Court Justice who fought Brown versus Board of Education. But we need to learn about the many other things that he did as a Supreme Court Justice, and we need to teach our children, excuse me, who he was to preserve our history and the important things he did for everybody. He didn't just do stuff for African Americans; he did things for everybody because his rulings, you know, as we know, carried a long weight. But we need to go and learn how he got to where he did, and what he had to do and what he didn't have to do to get to where he was before he passed away. So the movie started Friday, and we should go and see it. And like I said, take your kids, let them learn some history, and because we're not learning, it's not being taught in school. So we need to go see the movie, check it out, and talk to your kids about it. Also, this weekend, the NAACP State Convention was here, and there's a guy. His name is Larry Gibson. And he is the only family authorized publisher. He wrote a book about Thurgood Marshall. And the book wasn't just about Thurgood Marshall as, you know, I'm going to write about this man. They were actually friends. He knew Thurgood Marshall. They've met, they've talked over the years of beginning and end, well, the end of Thurgood Marshall, but they talked from the, you know, from his before he became a Supreme Court judge. He knew him when he was a lawyer, and now on the judge seat. So he wrote a phenomenal book about it. So, you know, we know those two things are out there. And like I said, we need to see the movie, buy the book. I don't know about you, but if there's a movie and a book out, I try to go and get the both, because I just want to see if they're the same. I mean, I really do. I'll, you know, read the book, then go see the movie. And just to compare them, not to say somebody is not telling the truth, but you know, in the book, you can expound a little more on a topic than you can in a movie, because the movie's only so long, and certain things you have to cut out of a story to get it that way. So, like I said, I would advise you and would like to hear about the feedback, but go see Thurgood Marshall and the book about Thurgood Marshall and see what it is. And like I said, it's our history. We need to preserve it, teach it, and understand it, and we need to support it. So, you know, when it does go, because we always complain about it's not being taught. Well, if it's on the big screen, we need to go and just see what it is, you know, and talk about what he did. You know, I was talking to some college kids yesterday, and Mr. Gibson put out his book, and a couple of them walked past, and they go, "Who is this man?" Thurgood Marshall. And the other ones were talking. They said, "He's some old man." That's all they do. Some old man. Mind you, they're college kids. They said, "He's some old man." And before they walked past this table. When they got to me, I'm like, "Stop, wait a minute. Let's talk about this." I said, "So you all don't know who Thurgood Marshall is?" They looked at me, "No." "Should we know?" Maybe you should. So, you know, naturally I did what technology says do. I told them to, you know, bring up their phones. They did. I told them to Google Thurgood Marshall. They did. And they sat there and was like floored, because first of all, they knew about Brown versus Board of Education, but they didn't know that he was he was a part of that. So certain things that he's done, they knew about the action of, but they didn't know the who. So a lot of them had heard, "Oh yeah, he did this. Oh man, I know who did that," but they didn't attach it to Thurgood Marshall. So then they became really, really, really hungry for the knowledge. And luckily, Mr. Gibson, you know, with being the author, was there. He actually told them so much of the story, you know, and they were in awe. And some of them were also, you know, sad and ashamed because they didn't know who he was, especially those who wanted to practice law. That were there yesterday and you know, saying they want to be a lawyer, they want to be this, they want to be that, you know, in the legal system. but they didn't know who he was. So that was an important part because, like I said, they just walked past the table, looking at the picture. Oh, he's some old man. We ain't got to worry about him. Yeah. So they walked past and they were finished until, like I said, I stopped them and I'm like, wait a minute, hold up. Let's take a step back and actually look at the story and see who this man is and what he's all about. And they did. And like I said, since they did that, there was a new understanding. They walked away with a whole new sense of who he is and what he was about. And some of them actually bought the book so they could read it because, like I said, knowledge is power. And it was 3 or 4 of them that, like I said, were going into the legal field. So that's important for them to know. And I'm glad that he was there. I'm glad he was the kind of person who could talk about Thurgood Marshall in a way of, I know him. Well, I knew him as I sat with him. In his book, there's various pictures of them together. So, his story wasn't just made up of a bunch of things that he read or a bunch of stories he read. It was actually, came from actually knowing him. So, like I said, we need to go and see that. Whenever our movies come out and they're about our history, we should support it. Because, if we don't support it, they'll stop making them. And they'll stop making them because we don't support them. So it becomes a evolving circle to which nobody wins because they'll say, we put the movie out there, but you all didn't go see it. Well, we'll become stuck after that. We don't have anything to stand on. We don't have anything to say. We're merely just stuck. So let's not do that anymore, and let's go see the movies and let's talk about the movies and reintroduce books into our kids' lives because books have kind of left. I know ebooks are out and they're cool too, but let's reintroduce our children to reading, to learning, and to studying. At the convention we did various workshops, and the workshops were for anybody. You didn't have to pay any money or whatever. You could just come to the workshop. And we had a workshop on education. And the education workshop was supposed to be an hour. That did not work. We got really into it and learned some things. And so, I want to talk to you about not the things we've learned, but the things that are happening and also what we can do about it. I learned that there's a school in our area. I'm not going to say what city, but it's in our area where you got special needs kids who are put outside the classroom because they're disrupting the class. So they sat out there with another staff person, but they're outside the hallway doing their work because they're disrupting the class. Well, that's violation of his civil rights. He has a right to learn. Also, there's no learning going on with him right now because he's in the hallway doing one piece of paper instead of participating with the rest of the class. So his rights are being violated. And we need to pay attention to that, and we need to react better. Parents, the student code of conduct book that you get, the little slip of paper saying I read it, please go back and read it. And you will understand certain things that's done in the school district are actually legal. Such as, let's say your child has a fight at school, and there's a campus level hearing. I don't know if you know parents, but school can call you as a courtesy to say, you know what, at 3 o'clock we're having a campus level hearing. You're going to say, I can't be there. They go, okay, bye. Because they don't need you there to do that. They can actually just, hold the hearing. If they're going to decide to send them to alternative, they can. Whatever they decide, you don't have to be there. It's a courtesy that they call you. Parents need to know that because you have a lot of parents calling up and they're fussing about, they had the campus level hearing. I wasn't there. They made a decision over my child. Well, if you read the book and you go to chapter 37 of our school's code of conduct for the state of Texas, you see that they don't have to. They don't. It's a courtesy. It's just being nice to have you there so that in the back end, they won't have you screaming later on as to why I wasn't there. So that came up yesterday also, and we kept referring back to the student code of conduct book. We also talked about the fact that in your child's, let's say, high school, there's a student code of conduct book, yes, excuse me, that your district has, But then there's also a conduct book for your child if they're in PE, playing a sport. There's also one for band if they're playing band. So what I'm saying is, don't think that just because this book is labeled band or sports, it's different. It's the same as the other book. No, it's not. Because band might have everything in there, but they might have a paragraph in there that they inserted. This is something totally different. You need to know. Just like sports. Sports gonna have a certain paragraph in theirs that's different from everybody's. So if your child falls into it, you're gonna be upset because one, you didn't read the book. Second, they have a right to do so. So I want parents to go back and read your education code 37, chapter 37. I need you to read it, understand it, and digest it so that when we come up to the schools and complain, we know what we're talking about. The worst thing you do is get a parent in there arguing and screaming and they have no clue what they're talking about. I mean, you know they're there to help the child, but they don't have a clue. So study and learn. Like I said, mainly the code of conduct book when it comes out. Just, read it before you sign it and send it back. And now it's online, and I know that everybody does not have everybody has a smartphone. Some people don't use it smartly. You have people with a smartphone, all they do is answer the phone. That's it. They don't do nothing else. Well, for them, they can go up to the school and ask for a hard copy. And the schools have to provide them with a hard copy of the student code of conduct. So I know this is into the school year, but you know what? It's never to learn to read and learn and see what's in there, because you can't say, when I was going to school, we didn't have to do this. Well, you know what? That was years ago. Technology's changed. Kids changed. Everything has changed since then. So you can't say, what happened way back then. Nobody really cares about that. And besides, you're not making a relevant claim. It's not. So parents read. Read and understand. And also we get notes. I'm talking about things we talked about yesterday that were important. But when parents send home a note to first of all, some notes that your teachers send home to the parents or to the grandparents or whoever has legal guardianship, should be some positive things in there. It should not all be negative. But if the teacher writes you a note and said your son kicked this little girl, and you go to punish him, first ask her what was going on. Ask the teacher, write her back and say exactly what was going on when he kicked her. What was going on before then? You need to know that. You actually do. What were you doing before then? So you need to ask those questions and not just accept that one sentence as your kid had a bad day today or kid wasn't listening today. Ask why. Ask what were they doing at that time. Don't just take that and run away with it and assume that you have a knucklehead kid and whatever happened. Talk to the kid, but mainly write a note back to the teacher to say, explain this. Instead of he kicked the kid, he hit a child. Explain this. You want them to explain, like I said, what was going on in the room before then, what was going on during that time. You want to know what control of the room it was actually in control. But you always want to make sure people are doing their jobs. So when that happens, you write them back. But don't accept your son kicked mine, and then that's it, and you punish your child. Find out the whole story, but you get it from the teacher's perspective. Tell you what happened, that led up to it, because I'm sure your kid didn't go to school today. So you know what? I'm gonna go to school and I'm gonna hit this guy. I'm just gonna hit him. No. So find out what happened before then, so you can then start to fight back. And that's what actually, what you want to be doing is being an advocate for your child. The parents are the first advocates for the children, and you need to remember that all the way through school, and also college. I didn't realize yesterday on the panel, we had two professors there. And, we were talking about what goes on in elementary, middle, middle and high school. But he brought in the college thing. He brought in the fact that, in college, kids aren't prepared for it. So they're there, and they're thinking the high school way. I didn't get a chance to do my homework last night. And the high school teacher might say, well, you can turn it in the next day. College professor going to be like, you didn't bring, not within 0. And you're sitting there going, but in high school, you're not in high school anymore. You're no longer pampered. Your professor gets paid whether you learn or not. So you got to do. So we need to instill that into our kids, because when the professors were saying that yesterday, you know, that they'll tell a kid, hey, listen, college life is not for you. And that's beforehand when they've been trying to get the kid to do their work. You know, and college kids need to learn that, you know, you can't turn it up on Tuesday and Wednesday knowing you got a test on Thursday. You can't do that because you're going to fail. So we learned that some of the same behaviors that we see in school, middle, high school, transfer over to college. Where in middle and high school, you're pampered a little, not much, but you get pampered still a little bit. But when you get to college, he or she doesn't have to pamper you. He or she does not have to care about you doing your work or not. They don't care if you're failing or not. They will ask you to leave their class and maybe you need to take another one. But we need to prepare our kids for college because, like I said, until both of those professors spoke yesterday, I didn't think about, we were just thinking about middle school, high school, elementary. That's what our focus was until they opened up and said, hey, college too. You know, so we didn't think about that being in college, but they have the same issues we have in school. You just got older people doing those same things. So, and do you have to be an advocate for your child in college? Yes, you should be. You should be. You should be an advocate for your child at all times, no matter where they are. But just be an advocate and know what's going on, know what you're talking about. Don't come up talking about things that you don't know, have no clue about, but be a real advocate for your child. And like I said, we were wrong in thinking it was where it was, elementary, middle, and high. We found out that it's also in college. And we also talked about girls. You know, for a while, boys were being sent to detention at a higher rate. But guess who's being sent now? The girls. Our girls are being sent to alternative school. You know why? Well, some girls are sent to alternative school because of their hair. Because it's not, you know, straight flinging around like that. But you have other girls who got caught on coded on the clothing they wore. And the fact that I'll put this, you know, skirt on somebody's size 2, that same skirt is not going to fit the person who's size 10. It's not going to fit that way. And some of us have hips and everything well rounded. Well, that skirt's going to be fitting just like that. So you've got girls who got sent home and even suspended for the fact of wearing the wrong clothes, when it wasn't really the wrong clothes. It's her body makeup and that outfit didn't match. We got to be careful of that because our girls are being sent, like I said, at an alarming rate more than boys. So we need to pay attention to that, and we need to learn to fight back. And the only way to fight back is to have the education and the background. And I'm not saying education is college, but back to student code book. You can also go online and Google how to be an advocate for your child. But the simple thing is you need to know the rules, the laws to be an advocate, the rules of the school district, the laws of your Texas State School Board, because they have their own too. Once you know those, you can then go back to fight for your child. I know a few months back, we talked about a little girl in Belton ISD who came to school with a faux hawk, got sent home, but we found out that book had not been brought up to date in over 20 years. It was an outdated book. And, you know, so they had to quickly adjust and change that book, but she got sent home for that. When actually she didn't have one. Her mother put her hair in those little braids, the puff balls on her head, and they assumed that was that. But she had made it through all day, through school, all day, until the assistant principal seen her at the end of the day, and then it became a big issue. So yes, now our girls are being sent more to detention than our boys are right now. And like I said, some of it's dress code violation. There's no hair code violation for students, except for no, there really isn't. It's got to be neat. That's all they say. It's got to be neat. That's it. But you've had some schools make it where Those of us who wear our hair natural, not that they'll say it's uncombed. And I'll admit, yes, I don't comb my hair either, but it's neat. It's neater than ever. It's neat, very not neat, and looks good. So they'll say it looks uncombed. Therefore, she got to go. So can't do that. Everybody else can press, relax, straighten their hair. Some people wear their hair in its normal state. Well, we've got to now work on changing that amongst other schools so they can understand that that person isn't being defiant. They're simply aware of the fact that they don't have to relax their hair, the creamy crack as we might want to call it. They don't have to do all those things with their hair. They can actually wear their hair and it's beautiful in the way that it looks. So we don't have to worry about that as far as us changing our hair, but we just need to let the school districts know that this is a natural thing, and not everybody combs their hair. And combing your hair does not make it look good, because I've seen people who don't have to comb their hair just straight and it looks a mess, but yet that's okay. So we need to go back and relook at the fact that all of our boys at one time were being sent to juvenile detention, and realize that now our girls are being sent to juvenile detention at a higher rate because of their clothes, what they're wearing, and sometimes their hair. And also, we'll throw in the other thing, the voices. As African Americans, our voices are vastly different, and sometimes it can sound like we're yelling when we're actually talking. You have people who talk with their hands, and you've got a group of people who say you're throwing gang signs when you actually talk with your hands, because that's what you do. And you have a lot of people who do that. So that's another thing that the girls are being criticized on, which means we need to wake up and we need to start getting more involved in learning, because these things are happening, and they're happening more because we don't do anything. We sit back and we'll go to Facebook and we'll say, oh, you know what, that's not right, what happened today. We'll do that. We'll light Facebook up, and then we'll have 10 or 20 people on there commenting and saying what they think. But we don't go to the school where the root can change. We don't go before the school board and talk to the elected officials. Listen what I said, elected officials. We don't do that, but we'll go to social media. And I'm not saying don't go to social media, but I'm saying you go in there, also make sure you go on to the schools to help change the issues and help solve the problems that's going on with our kids. Because if not, we're losing them, and we're allowing another system that we don't want to educate our kids. I'm going to take a break and come back.